Tonex has been Van Halenized? No way! Everyone, welcome back to my channel, or as some say, the Van Halen Appreciation Society. If you're new here, then thank you for joining us for this Eddie inspired day. So a week ago, Chris over at IK Multimedia messages me and says, hey man, we have a Van Halen inspired Tonex pack coming out. You interested? I'm like, hells yeah, send it over man. And oh my goodness, regular viewers on my channel already know that I've been on a bit of a Van Halen tone quest for the last year or so, and it's been such an amazing journey, but this is rather special. So first, my Tonex pedal. Yep, Van Halenized. Now, I did this myself mainly for the video today, but also because it looks insanely cool, right? So don't go messaging IK and saying, hey man, when's the EVH Stripe Series Tonex pedal coming out? I'll get in trouble. Don't do that, please. But seriously, today's video is all about Tonex Brown Sound 78-79 Signature Collection, which is a collection of 50, yep, you heard that right, 50 Tonex captures covering the first two Van Halen album recorded tones, done by none other than Van Halen tone maestro himself, Jim Gaustad. Yeah, the man. If you're an Eddie tone chaser like I am and you don't know who Jim is, then you must have been hiding under a rock or something, because this guy is the GOAT when it comes to Eddie's tone. He has dived deeper into this rabbit hole than anybody else out there. He has all the right gear, the right chops, and the right attention to detail. So when the guys over at IK told me that they had captured his collection of amps and gear into a Tonex pack, man, the hairs on the back of my neck just stood on end. I can feel the shivers right now, I kid you not. And by the way, make sure that you watch until the end, because I'll be letting you in on something that is gonna make you even more excited about this. What makes this pack special and really unique is that Jim used his entire recording chain to capture these amp profiles. That means his 1968 Marshall Super Lead, which has been modded and spec'd out to match Eddie Van Halen's 68 Super Lead serial number 12301. The same resistors, capacitors, transformers, fat cap mod, and 50k mid pot, identical. Multiple 1960 Marshall cabs with different speakers, including the 20-watt Celestion greenbacks and the JBL D120s. And I'll tell you how meticulous this guy was. Jim even plugged his guitar into a vintage 70s MXR Phase 90 and flanger pedals, switched off by the way, and an Echoplex EP3, plus used 70 feet of Belden 8410 and 8412 guitar cable to emulate the effect on the guitar tone and the high-end roll-off you get when you use that setup. He even used a Vega wireless system for several of the 79 captures. Absolutely crazy level of detail, but it really shows in this capture pack. They even removed two of the output tubes to push things even further and break the traditional push-pull topology of the Marshall amps to produce an asymmetric pull-only distortion, giving the 78 captures their signature bite, boom, and an angry edge. It's pretty damn cool. Wait till you hear these. And of course, you cannot do Eddie Van Halen sound without a VariAC, right? They used one to drop the voltage to the amp and give it that authentic Eddie vibe and sound. 3 settings were used. At 89 volts, the amp tightens up with a touch less gain, while at 78 volts, it makes the amp even more spongy but with a little more gain. Perfect for tapping and those fiery leads. And spoiler alert, that's what I gravitated towards. Yeah, I'm a high gain kind of guy. And the third one is 68 volts, even less voltage, that was used for the Van Halen 2 captures, which makes the amp sound a little bit meaner. Now Jim used Van Halen inspired guitars, of course, yeah, as well as PAF style pickups, so that the amps would respond the same way as when Eddie was playing them. Of course, you can use whichever guitar you like and whichever pickups as well when you play. The amp profiles will react differently to different guitars and different pickups, so if you want that Van Halen thing going on, then you can use PAF style lower output pickups, which will make the amps work a little bit differently. Now, as Jim and IK had set out to capture the recorded Van Halen tones, the cabs were then mic'd with Shure SM57s and put through a vintage style analog console to get that sound that Van Halen achieved at Sunset Sound on those first two albums. The level of detail is absolutely mind-blowing. The proof though is always in the pudding, right? And man, this is one tasty, tasty dessert. Check out these tones. Hey, if you're digging this video, then do me a huge favor and smash that subscribe button and hit the bell notification so that you can be the first to check out future Van Halen inspired videos. And let me know what other Van Halen contents you would like to see on my channel. Thanks so much. I think you'll agree that these tones sound insanely good. Look, here's the deal. When an expert like Jim creates something like this, then it's really time to pay attention. And that's reflected in this Tonex signature pack, in my opinion. These amp captures sound like Van Halen 1 and 2, and there are 50 different captures covering both albums, and they all sound a little bit different, feel-wise, gain-wise, and EQ-wise. So you can experiment with your guitars and signal chain and select the ones that sound closest to your ears and with your own gear. I like that about this pack because it covers pretty much every single eventuality. These captures also feel really great to play. It actually feels like I'm plugged into my custom 50-watt Plexi, which I have Van Halenized to the T with the right components, right values, everything. That was kind of really eerie, man. I mean, I'm playing amp captures made by the foremost authority on Van Halen guitar tone, and I'm thinking, my amp actually does sound like this. It was wild, man. I guess all those little tweaks and mods that I made to my amp really Van Halen spec'd it. Maybe I should rename it the JVH amp. Anyways, let's check out the variety of tones that you can get with this pack. You know, after spending some time with these profiles, I really gravitated towards specific ones like Set to Explode, Warm 78 volt, which I use for my rhythms, Volcano 78 volt and Devil's Race 78 volt, which I used for leads. I found that those to be pretty high gain, well, for a Plexi anyhow, and they just worked for me because I like my high gain. The 78 volt profiles just seem to be my thing. There's something about how they bloom under my fingers that feels really magical, especially for those Eruption style tapping runs. It's like having Eddie's amp right here in the studio. It's pretty wild, man. The 89 volt was also really fantastic as well. Slightly different tone, slightly different gain level. And the 68 volt drop for the 79 Van Halen 2 captures is really awesome, as it gives you yet another set of delicious tones. On that amp, they used all 4 output tubes, and it gives the amp a meaner but slightly clearer sound. It's delicious to play. And I remember listening to Van Halen 2 back to back after Van Halen 1, and realizing that there is more edge to the tone on VH2. The amp starts to breathe a little more at 68 volts, but it still delivers that natural compression that brings everything together. I love the graphics on this amp because they have included the bomb that Eddie had converted into his effects rack, and the Vega wireless sitting on top of the amp as well. Makes it kind of fun, man. Those voltage drops add a ton of goodness to the tone of the amp. Man, it makes me want to get myself a real VariAC for my studio. I've got to say, from the moment I played these, I was just blown away. The tones are so good and feel great to play under my fingers, and hearing them through my speakers is just magical. I always look at amp profiles as a snapshot of the amp settings and the signal chain, so I didn't change any of the EQ settings, and most of the time I just left the gain where it was as well, so that I could really experience the captures as Jim had intended. And you're hearing the Tonex sounds as Jim captured them. Now, I know that my rhythm tracks sounded pretty gainy, but in all honesty, there isn't much gain going on the amp, or I should say the amp profile. It really is just my playing and my guitar and my pickups. It truly is that whole Eddie Van Halen thing where he's playing through an amp that everyone knows doesn't have too much juice, but he makes it sound like he has more beans than Jack when he was growing that beanstalk. And that's the magic signal chain that was captured on these profiles. It is ridiculously good. Plexis are pretty notorious for being unforgiving and brutally honest for this reason, and these profiles are just like that. Play well and you'll be rewarded. Play badly and it will let you know. It will shout it out at you, man. Sounds like these make me play better. I gained up some of the lead parts to get that extra little bit of squeal and pinch harmonics, mainly because I wanted to see if it would work, and it did. It sounded really good. It kind of reminded me of that whole Jose Arredondo extra gain stage when I turned up the wick. One of the things that really floored me is how these profiles responded so well to rolling back my guitar's volume. That clean but not too clean tone on quiet parts like in Panama and the beginning of Hot for Teacher, it's all there with just a twist off the volume knob on your guitar. Jim really nailed that dynamic response that is so crucial to Eddie's playing style. This is a must for playing Van Halen. You have to have that ability to do that. All that beautiful, juicy harmonic content that I would expect from a gained up amp played with a guitar with the volume at 2 or 3 was right there, right at my fingers and on my guitar and through my speakers. That extra little bit of compression, that natural decay, I just love that. I so love playing that. To keep things authentic, I used IK Multimedia's excellent Sunset Sound reverb and tape echo plugins for the ambience that you hear on the track as well. They've actually been my go-tos for a few years now, and they are totally amazing. And even if you're not trying to nail the Van Halen tones, these are just phenomenal amp profiles of a really incredible sounding Marshall Super Lead Plexi. They do cover all of your classic rock tones all the way to Plexi just about to blow itself to smithereens tones, and then some. And you remember at the beginning of the video I told you I would let you in on something pretty special? Well, this is just the first Van Halen pack. Yep, the guys are going to cover the entire David Lee Roth era tones with 2 more future signature collection packs. I'm so excited about that. I'm so looking forward to playing the Women and Children First, Fair Warning and 1984 tones. This is just epic. Much kudos and thanks to Jim Gaustad and IK Multimedia for creating these and sending them to me to check out. You can see how much I'm smiling and how excited I am and how much I'm loving this. Well, days like this are not just incredible and full of joy, they are truly inspiring for me. Head over to IK Multimedia's website and check them out. In fact, just go and buy them, man. They are that good, honestly. I would love to know which Van Halen album tone is your favorite and what you think of these tones as well. Leave a comment and let me know. Alrighty folks, if you enjoyed this one, you know what to do. Subscribe, like and comment and share with your Van Halen loving buddies too. Time for the full track. Now, I know, this one is totally inspired by the song Panama, but with a twist. Yeah, I call this the running bull. People in the know will know. They'll get that. Enjoy the Eddie inspired riffs and noodles. I had such a blast jumping around my studio recording this one. How can you not when tones are this good? Have a fantastic day and I will see you really soon with another one. Bye for now.